This is the program from the National Assembly. I am Ignatius Nkwo. Today we'll bring to you a repeat of the Senate plenary of Thursday, the 12th of March 2020. This is because the Senate will not be sitting today. On that day, the Senate considered the bills that seeks to establish the Southeast and North Central Development Commissions. It's been a week of second reading of bills in the Senate. More than 20 constitution amendment bills passed second reading within the week. But the Zonal Development Commission establishment bills are not constitutional alteration bills and therefore were thrown up for debate. Senator Stella Odua sponsored that of the Southeast Development Commission establishment bill, while Senator Abba Moro sponsored that of the North Central.
The second reading of the Southeast Development Commission Establishment, etc. Bill 2020. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Wednesday, 13th November 2019. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Princess Stella Adaeze Odua to move the motion for the bill to be read the second time.
Mr. President, dear colleagues, I want to say that this bill is sponsored by myself and all the senators from Southeast. Mr. President, that is to show you how pivotal this bill is to us. This bill was read for the first time in these chambers on Wednesday, 13th November 2019. The establishment of commission to tackle infrastructural deficits and as well as engage the youth in productive ventures in the zone. Mr. President, the function of the commission shall, among other things, be to formulate policies, guidelines for development of Southeast. It will also plan and implement in accordance with the set rules and regulation projects, programs for sustainable development of Southeast in the field of roads, education, health, facilities, employment, industrialization, agriculture, housing and urban development, including water supply, electricity and commerce. Mr. President, the ecological problem in Southeast is humongous. And so the challenge in Southeast, and to the extent that 30% of our farmland has gone, and we've lost nothing less than 15 villages, and we do that on a yearly basis. This bill also will attempt to identify factors inhibiting the development of Southeast and assist the member states in formulation and implementation of policies to ensure sound and efficient management of resources of our Southeast region. The Commission will estimate the cost of implementing the master plan and the scheme in general while implementing all the approved measures for development. Mr. President, this bill will be divided into 6 parts and it will have 30 sections. One schedule therewith, and it seeks, amongst other things, to have number 1, serve as a commission for development of Southeast geopolitical zone to rehabilitate and construct roads to ameliorate the devastating effect of soil erosion and other environmental or developmental challenges in the region made up of Abia, Anambra, Ebonyi, Enugu, and Imo states. It will also seek to identify and promote programs that will enhance the development of boundless entrepreneurial capacities, technical skills, technological innovativeness, managerial competencies for our economic advancements. Number 3 would be to give necessary attention and support needed to enhance the abundant economic and ingenious entrepreneurial potential of our region. and to the development of the manufacturing and industrial activities capable of transforming the Nigerian economy and leading the way to a strategic domestic economic growth. Mr. President, dear colleagues, it's incontrovertible that the micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises are significant to the growth, productivity, competitiveness of any economy. This is one of the areas the Southeast manifests its strength and comparative advantage, but lack the necessary encouragement and support to enhance their growth and maximize their full potentials to compete with countries like China and Brazil. Again, diversification is paramount in taking the nation out of our monolithic economy, and Southeast is strategically positioned to play this role with the passage of this bill. The Southeast as a region has contributed immensely to the overall development of Nigeria in terms of technical, educational, tourism, sports, technological know-how, and other areas of endeavor, still lag behind in terms of infrastructural development. What the region requires now from the rest of the country, Mr. President, is support and understanding, and this will help to ensure that Southeasterners have a sense of belongingness to our nation, Nigeria. The Senate is in the right position to show maturity in face of the problems that the Southeast has today and the challenges facing the geopolitical zone. Nigeria has abundant capacity to beam a sympathetic focus to begin to address these issues in a more holistic and systemic manner. The public works project to be executed by this commission will engage the youth in a more serious fashion and help to develop needed human capital in both the public and private sector. This will also curb the cases of kidnapping and other criminal activities that create security situation not conducive for growth and development. The peaceful coexistence of Nigerian states will be enhanced if the establishment of this commission is assented to. The passage of this bill will not impact negatively on other geopolitical zones, but rather support the revisitation of the need to address the issues raised by this bill, which all zones within Nigeria states have argued positively in support of. The passage of this bill will be critical in addressing Southeast agitation for marginalization through an integrative developmental plan that will promote and strengthen the sense of nationalism. A thriving and strong economy in Southeast, consequent upon the tackling of their problem, will definitely lead to improved revenue stream into the Federation account in terms of taxes and other non-oil revenue sources. The enactment of this bill will help to rebuild Southeast and provide opportunity for the people to display their talents, their innate skill, and contribute immensely to the development of the country. It may interest the Senate to know that this bill was passed by the 8th Senate as well as the concurrence of the 8th House of Representatives, but yet to be assented to. I therefore urge my colleagues to support this bill for the second reading. Mr. President, I so submit.
This bill is a progressive bill. It's a developmental bill and needs to be supported by my colleagues. Excellency, let me draw the attention of my colleagues those who were there during the war, or those who were born during the war, or those who participated during the war from 1967 to 1970. Excellency, within this period, that was when the whole of the Southeast, which was the theater of war, experienced the degradation in terms of development. Roads were finished, abandoned, spoiled. Hospitals were non-existent. Education, every person faced the war. Nothing was happening. And we, that region, deteriorated for a very long time. And after the war, the federal government now brought these 3 R's: reconciliation, rehabilitation, and the other one. But the rehabilitation and reconstruction went somewhere and stopped. It didn't achieve the essence the federal government had in mind because of financial constraints. Therefore, this bill, if passed, is a bill that will capture all these things and make the Southeast to develop. Excellency, some parts of the Southeast belong to the NDDC, Niger Delta Development Commission. And that commission is the only commission right now that is helping the Southeast. Those that are members of that commission, helping them in terms of education, in terms of projects. So if we now pass this bill, it will be the responsibility of this commission, Southeast Development Commission, to take up this challenge, because the Southeast is laden with potentials. People who are intelligent, people who are resourceful. During the war, that region did a lot of things out of emergency. This way we are talking about a refinery that is now every person wants, how do we do refinery? There was a refinery by local people. The fuel that was used during the war were locally refined. The arms that were used were locally manufactured. Oguni way that was devastated was locally made. Why do we leave that region for this talent to die? This commission will now revive this, and it is for the progress of the whole of Nigeria. It's not for Southeast alone, and it will provide employment opportunities, widen the avenue for people to show themselves, and then put the development to the benefit of all Nigerians. Excellency, you realize also, Excellency and my colleagues, that the other development commissions have scaled through. They were supported by our colleagues. Therefore, I don't see why this one should not be supported. I stand to say that I support this commission to be established, this bill to be established, and I urge my colleagues to help us in putting your voice so that it will scale through. Thank you.
I want to look at it professionally because, of course, what is the essence of all this development commission? To bring development, infrastructure development. And Mr. President, if you look at her in the first page B, the essence, of course, of this commission to repair roads, education, health, industries, agriculture, water supply, electricity. Mr. President, if we look at all these infrastructure, we have MDS. Of course, we have ministries in charge of all these infrastructures. We have agencies. And now, of course, we are agitating for development commission on all the grounds. Of course, I supported it. But, Mr. President, we have to look at it professionally. I could call when the Ministry of Niger Delta was established, that was in conflict with Federal Ministry of Works. For almost 1 year, there was no progress from Niger Delta because we had to sit down, okay, which road are you taking? Which road you leave to ministry? Which road you leave to FEMA? So, Mr. President, we have to sit down and look at the function of this MDS. Are we going to repeat some of the acts that, of course, maybe to say, okay, we now, stop FEMA from functioning because it's charge of road maintenance and Federal Ministry of Works is there, construction. Niger Delta is there, construction road. NDCC is there, construction road. So, Mr. President, and all these MDAs and also the commission, this development commission is agitating, they need funding. So where are we going to fund all these MDAs and also this development commission? So we have to sit down, Mr. President. Of course, I support, of course, all the those to have this development commission. If, of course, that will definitely bring the development as we are agitating. So we have to look at what is happening now in the MDAs. If it's good that we allow this development commission to, then we have to reduce. Maybe it's the same fund that will give the MDAs and now to take small bit of it again to the Development Commission. So, Mr. President, I support for all the region to have this Development Commission, but we have to look at the MDS function and see how are we going to fund this Development Commission and also the same thing, at the same time, fund this MDS.
I wish to commend Senator Stella on bringing up this bill. And the essence of having a commission, a zonal commission, is to assist and unite that zone in coming up with something positive for development of that area. So therefore, I support this bill. And I would like to say that the bill being sponsored by Stella, clearly in the southeast, there need to be the youth that are involved in making machineries should be encouraged in that area. And for the other issue of soil erosion, the federal government budget or even budget on ecological cannot take care of the soil erosion problems in the southeast. And when they have this commission, they can be getting assistance not only from the national budget, but from the international community to assist that particular zone. Like the northeast, getting assistance from the international community in trying to resolve or assist and rebuild that area under the jurisdiction of the fight we had of the Boko Haram, or we have. In view of that, Mr. President, I know that every budget comes along with financial compendium, and I'm happy that she has brought the financial compendium. But I want the Senate to look at the estimate put there. I think it needs to be reviewed, even though it's just a criteria, but the budget needs to be reviewed. When you are setting up a commission, you don't put 10 million naira for training, whereby you need to train youth in that commission. So therefore, the funding of for the take-up of the commission is just about 158 million naira. I think it's very low. But I don't know whether on the lighter mood, the mover of the motion will be financing this on our own. But I believe that the amount is low and should be reviewed. So I support this bill and let it pass.
That Mr. President today supported this bill as the leader of the Senate when this bill was first passed in the 8th Assembly. And whatever we are saying now is what we said in the 8th Assembly. So, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, so many people have said so many things about Southeast. Looking at Southeast, we are very hardworking people, no doubt. And if this support is given to Southeast, it's going to encourage the Southeast to work harder more. And our youths, if this bill is passed, it will go a long way telling our youths that yes, the federal government and in fact the other part of the country knows that Southeast exists. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I appeal to all my colleagues to humbly, the way they did in the 8th Assembly, to support this bill. And at the same time, I'm also appealing, it's not just passing the bill. I'm also appealing that Mr. President should find a place in his heart to assent to this bill if it is passed. Mr. President, on this note, I thank you. You are a Southeast man, a lover of Southeast. Many people in these chambers are very, very friendly with the Southeast. And we have been supporting other zones in this, the pursuit of development commission. I don't see why they shouldn't support us. Anything that is good for other zones should also be good to Southeast.
Mr. President, I stand to support this bill, not just as an Igbo man, but as a Nigerian. I'm even happy that Senator Binoba has revealed that you supported this bill in the 8th Assembly. And I also know you are going to support it in the 9th Assembly. Sir, I love this bill because the framer did not go into any history of sentiment, but went straight to say, we need this bill. And because of that, the history of the bill has already been explained or critically taken point by point. But one thing is certain in that bill. We are not saying do to us as we've done to others, but we are saying look into our heart and help us to come on board to be a state in the state of our brothers. The total perimeter of Southeast is in such a way that if we have this commission, we can bring in China, but leaving coronavirus for them. So we are saying that the state colleagues should give us their heart and ears to support this bill to pass. And I know, Mr. President, with the love you have for Southeast, when this bill is passed, you will single it out for cent. This bill should have its love, and our colleagues on the other side, and our colleagues this side. I'm only begging, Kadakahanu, Kadakahago, let us agree on this bill.
The Commission is going to assist the Southeast to develop itself in terms of ecological problems, in terms of education, roads, network, and so many other things. And like what has happened to other commissions previously passed, the Northwest, Southwest, and the Northeast Development Commission, I strongly support the establishment of this commission, because by the time we establish it, it's going to help them in a very, very big way. I therefore support it, Your Excellency.
Mr. President, let me first of all commend Senator Stella Odua for bringing forward this bill. I supported this bill in its entirety in the Senate, and I still stand by it. I'm still supporting this bill. I believe that every part of this country should be developed. We should develop everywhere so that we don't have a situation where one area is fully developed and the rest of the country are not developed. Now, if you have that kind of situation, there's a tendency that people will move to that developed area. But if you have an even development everywhere being developed, anyone can then choose to stay wherever he or she wants to stay comfortably. So it is good we look at the peculiarities of each zone and then fashion out a way of dealing with the problem of such a zone. And when we are able to do that completely, then the country will become a better place for all of us. It is good that we give our support to this bill so that the southeastern part of this one will fully developed, like the southwest, and of course, the southwest is more developed than all other. Okay, well, Lagos. Okay, Lagos. Thank you. I do that. I should use the opportunity to thank everyone here, all the senators that supported. You all supported the Northwest Development Commission bill. So for that reason, what is good for the goose is also good for the gander. So let's all of us come together to support this bill so that we make Nigeria a better place. Mr. President, I submit.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that this bill be now read a second time, say aye. Those against, say nay. Ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Bill for an act to establish the Southeast Development Commission in the Federal Republic of Nigeria to act as a catalyst to develop the commercial potentials of the Southeast and other development challenges and for other connected matters 2020, second reading.
A bill for an act to establish the Southeast Development Commission in the Federal Republic of Nigeria to act as a catalyst to develop the commercial potentials of the Southeast and other development challenges and for other connected matters 2020 second reading taken, and the bill is referred to the Committee on Establishment and Public Service Matters to report back within 4 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
The next business of the day is the second reading of the much awaited North Central Development Commission Establishment, etc. Bill 2020. Obina. Distinguished senators will recall.
Good day. Thank you for joining us. This is Panorama on the network service of the NTA. I'm Ruth Aguela. Welcome. Let's begin with the latest update on COVID-19 as at 9:30 p.m. on 7th of April 2020, additional 16 new cases were reported in Nigeria, 10 in Lagos, 2 in the FCT, 2 in Oyo, 1 in Delta and 1 in Katsina, bringing the total number to 254 in Nigeria. Of the total number, 44 were discharged and 6 dead. In another development, Governor Aminu Bello Masari of Katsina State has confirmed the death of Dr. Aliyu Yakubu, a private medical practitioner in Daura local government area of the state, as a result of COVID-19. Governor Masari, who confirmed the death during a news briefing, said late Dr. Yakubu, who was a proprietor of a private clinic in Daura, returned from Lagos and immediately isolated himself at the Air Force Reference Hospital, Daura, where he died 2 hours later. The governor explained that the disease samples were taken to the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, Abuja, where it was tested positive of COVID-19.
Our medical response team are in Daura now, trying to meet all those that he contacted or interacted with since his return to Daura.
Governor Masari there giving an update of the patient who died. All right, more on COVID-19. The Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has assured Nigerians of President Muhammadu Buhari's unwavering commitment to containing the spread of COVID-19 in the country. Chairman of the task force, Boss Mustafa, gave the assurance at the Lagos State Government House in Marina after leading all the members of the team to inspect and assess facilities at some of the isolation centers in the state. Let's hear from Nosa Osula.
The Presidential Task Force team was earlier conducted round the isolation centers by Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu at the 110-bed space makeshift isolation center within Mobolaji Johnson Arena, Onikon, the first port of call. Boss Mustafa described the facility as first class, pointing out that it would help in the management of those affected with the coronavirus disease. The chairman of the task force, who commended Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu for his proactiveness and the media in Lagos for wide reportage since the outbreak of COVID-19, urged them to report anyone with COVID-19 symptoms who might not want to submit for medical isolation.
At the end of our evaluation, a certain set of recommendations and advice will go to Mr. President. And at that point, he and he alone will take the decision as to when the lockdown would either be extended or it will stop.
Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who commended President Muhammadu Buhari for his leadership and support in the fight against COVID-19 in Lagos and the country at large, assured residents of continuous collaboration between the federal, state governments and international organizations to contain the spread of the virus.
We also have facilities in Ekpe, we have at Alimosho, we have in Lekki, we have in other places that are just waiting in the event that we need to activate and clear those facilities, especially for quarantine.
The Minister of Health, Dr. Usagi Ehanire, assured Nigerians of the preparedness of other states of the Federation to contain the spread of coronavirus. The team earlier inspected.
Let's look at humanitarian intervention. The Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development is working to expand the number of most vulnerable Nigerians captured on the social register. The Minister, Sadia Umar Farouk, was speaking at a meeting with leadership of the National Assembly on the distribution of COVID-19 palliatives. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Nkwo reports.
The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management, Sadia Umar Farouk, arrived Senate conference room to brief leadership of the two chambers on the ministry's mode of operation in the heat of the coronavirus lockdown. The legislators demanded to know the state of COVID-19 aid distribution to the most vulnerable Nigerians, how the ministry arrived at its list, and the geopolitical spread of the palliative.
The National Assembly feels that we need to work together with the executive arm of government to ensure that the most vulnerable people benefit from the Empower and so many other projects we have under the SIP.
So on our own part, the first thing we need to do and run with it is to codify what you're doing and put it in law.
The minister explained that the palliative in form of food is to be handled by the National Emergency Management Agency, while her ministry is handling the conditional cash transfer and other components of the social intervention program.
You may recall Mr. President also directed that we should give 2 months advance payment to these poor and vulnerable households. And that was what I also flagged up in Kwali.
The ministry is using the already existing social register in the distribution of the funds, as the minister also explained modalities for the continuation of the school feeding program now that schools are not on.
Rather than giving the cooked meal, since students will not be in school, so we're identifying the households where they come from to take this 1 month food ration to them.
The meeting was also to make the process of identification of vulnerable Nigerians more inclusive. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
Thank you, Ignatius, for that. Let's look at more issues revolving on COVID-19. We have a guest just joined us. She is the NAFDAC Director General, Professor Moji Adeyeye. Thank you very much for joining us, ma'am.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Thank you.
All right, now let's begin this way. As a regulatory body, following claims of the efficacy of chloroquine, what would you say to Nigerians now, and what is NAFDAC doing in that regard?
Thank you very much. Chloroquine is an anti-malaria that was discontinued many years ago from being used because of resistance of the parasite to the drug. And right now, it is combination anti-malaria drugs that are used. However, at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, or right, at the beginning of it, there were a lot of research that was going on, especially in China. There is what you call in vitro research, meaning in the lab, using cells or cell lines. And thereafter, they started clinical trials using human beings. The in vitro lab research showed that chloroquine and another drug, remdesivir, are effective in killing the virus, that is in vitro in the lab. Soon after this publication, another publication was made, which was actually full clinical trials. It had 100 patients in the trial, and the conclusion, and it was only chloroquine that was used. The conclusion was that chloroquine was superior to the control, and that the patients, all the patients recovered. As a scientist, my function, aside from being a regulator, is to report what is going on as it relates to drugs and drugs that can be used for clinical trial treatment, not drugs that are approved for COVID. There is no drug that is approved for COVID-19. When you see a drug that is promising, a researcher, clinical researcher can use that drug for clinical trial treatment. And that was the essence of my press briefing on March 20.
Okay, Professor, let me hold your thoughts there. Now, when the whole claims of the efficacy of chloroquine, Professor, can you hear me? When the whole claims of chloroquine came out about the efficacy of it, we saw panic buying for Nigerians, and we saw the self-medication. What action did NAFDAC took at that time?
Actually, self-medication, unfortunately, is part and parcel of our culture. First, because most people go to the pharmacist to buy medicines. Most of Nigerians go to the pharmacist or patent medicine dealers to buy medicine. So that is a problem in our culture. But after that press briefing, I also went on channels, went on TVC, to emphasize the fact that people should not use chloroquine without consulting their doctor. They should not use chloroquine even if they are exposed to somebody that has COVID-19 without consulting their doctor. I also stated this on the FRCN radio, that self-medication complicates matters. Even if it is part of our culture, when it comes to COVID-19, our people should know that it is the doctor that they should contact first if they think they are exposed. Self-medication complicates matters in the sense that you may not know how much you're supposed to use. If you cannot reach your doctor, you should contact your pharmacist. Your pharmacist will discourage self-medication and, of course, direct you to a doctor if you don't know where the doctor can be found. So the emphasis is to consult the medical doctor or go to the pharmacist to talk about whatever need they think whatever drug they think they need. But I know the pharmacist will direct them to a doctor.
Okay, Professor, I know that there was a time chloroquine was banned for the treatment of malaria. Now, if people are having this panic buying of the drug, is there any plans by NAFDAC to also put a ban on the drug so people don't have access to it?
NAFDAC cannot ban a drug that is being tested in the clinics for clinical trial treatments. Chloroquine now is on WHO website, along with one or two other drugs that have been found through research, clinical research, to be effective. But it is not for consumption on a routine basis. So NAFDAC cannot ban. In fact, the role of NAFDAC is to ensure that for clinical trial treatment, the drug is available. NAFDAC is in the middle of clinical trial. For example, if a drug is not available in the country and clinical researchers submit their protocol their clinical protocol and they indicated that the drug is not available, NAFDAC will give import permit for that drug. If it is available locally, NAFDAC will guide the researcher in terms of getting the drugs locally. So NAFDAC cannot ban a drug that has been proven in clinical trial treatment to be effective. However, it has been proven to be effective in other climes. We have to test it in our own culture, in our own environment rather, because what is good in the Caucasian population may not be good in our own population. That is why we are assisting or guiding Lagos State Ministry of Health in the clinical trial that they are about to start. NAFDAC has been working with them to ensure that the process is expedited, and they're going to use chloroquine as one of their drugs.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Moji Adeyeye. Thank you very much for your insight on Panorama. All right, we've been talking to the DG NAFDAC. All right, let's look at more issues on COVID-19. The Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development says only the vulnerable will benefit from the 70,000 metric tons of food items released by the federal government. The Minister, Sadia Umar Farouk, clarifies this as the ministry takes delivery of the food items from the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development in Mina, Niger State. Musa Baba Aliyu has that report.
The food items released to the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development by the Federal Ministry of Agriculture consist of 35,000 metric tons of maize, sorghum 25,000, millet 5,000, and cassava flakes, known as gari, 5,000 metric tons. They are meant for distribution to Lagos, Ogun, and the FCT as a palliative measures to cushion the effects of COVID-19 lockdown directives in the three areas. The warehouse here located in Mina, Niger State capital, is housing more than 25,000 metric tons of assorted food, including gari, maize, and sorghum. Out of the figure, 12,500 metric tons will be handed over to Ministry of Humanitarian, Disaster Management and Social Development for on distribution.
We have 10,000 of maize and 2,500 of gari, and these are going to, part of it will be going to at least the three frontline states.
Minister of Agriculture, Mohamed Sabananono, and that of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadia Umar Farouk, streamlined how the food items would be lifted and distributed to beneficiaries. They agreed that Mina Center should serve Lagos, while that of Lafia would be moved to Abuja, and Ogun State will get its own delivery from other centers.
Mina being a fairly centralized place, from here we intend to move Gari into Lagos and Ogun State. Maize, NEMA will determine when it is going to be moved.
NEMA is in charge of the logistics to distribute these items to the populations that are affected by the lockdown. 25% of the population of the state, those are the ones that we are going to reach out to. And these are mostly the vulnerable in the state.
The director in charge of strategic food reserves says all the food items are being transported concurrently from all the centers. From Mina, Niger State, Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
You're watching Panorama on the network service of the NTA. Let's pause for some messages. We're back shortly, so stay tuned.
The struggle for independence had been a long and tough one. Our founding fathers and compatriots sacrificed their comfort and even shed their blood. We cannot at this point in history afford to spirit away their sacrifices for immediate but temporary gains of today. Let us emphasize what unites and not what divides us. Working for the unity of purpose with a stronger vision for a better tomorrow. NTA, growing with the nation.
Together, no matter where you come from, together. Let's stop fighting each other. Let us live as one. It doesn't matter where you come from, your tribe or religion, man, woman or child. It doesn't matter who you are. Put Nigeria first. No matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together.
How can we develop when we're always in crisis? Families have become refugees in their country. No matter our differences, show some understanding.
No matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together.
Nigeria, the only country we can train with remarkable potentials to excel. Let us believe in ourselves and change our attitude for the sake of our country and generations unborn. Let us revive our cultural values, which are our essence as a nation. Let us renew the spirit of patriotism and hope in our dear country. Do not take or give bribe. Be punctual always. No more African time. We can't expect to be global citizens and operate on African time. Join the queue. Insist that people are attended to on a first-come basis, no matter who they are or where they come from.
Nigeria, good people, great nation.
Thanks for staying tuned. And reports just reaching us says fire got part of Treasury building house of the housing the Accountant General Office of the Federation. The building of the Accountant General Office of the Federation there in fire. Let's look at how residents of Abuja are experiencing the lockdown. It's day 8 of the measures to control COVID-19, but they're taking it with mixed feelings. Now, visits to various locations in Abuja by NTA correspondents reveal this. Najatu Tijani compiled the report.
We have some people who are being turned back for not being able to show a proper ID identification and give good reason.
All right, that report seems not to be fully ready, but we'll definitely bring it to you in our subsequent bulletin. Let's move on to more issues on COVID-19 with the list of measures put in place, complemented by facilities in preparation for eventualities. Sokoto State is being proactive and vigilant in its bid to curtail the spread of COVID-19 to the state. Musab Abukar visited one of the facilities and now reports.
At the face of COVID-19 pandemic, ventilators like this is the state's line of defense and most valuable life-saving assets. This is Usmanu Dampodio University Teaching Hospital, one of the centers in Sokoto designated for the containment of COVID-19. They provide technical support to task force team and complement other designated center in Amanawa.
Important things we have done. We have formed the Infection Prevention Control Unit, which screens all patients that come to the institution. We use infrared thermometers to screen all people with fever. Our health personnel have been enlightened and they have been informed that any person that has the features suggestive of COVID-19, including the contact with person with COVID-19, should be alerted. We should alert the Infection Prevention Control Unit so that They screen him and then they take him to the isolation unit.
With a viral infection overwhelming health systems around the world, flattening the curve remains most viable option to make available facilities like this count. In Sokoto, I am Musa Abubakar, NTA News.
Let's take you to Walker, where about 1,000 indigent and vulnerable people in Ayamelum local government area of Anambra State have received the conditional cash transfer from the federal government. Nwabufo Unye reports that the beneficiaries were full of appreciation to President Muhammadu Buhari for his benevolence in meeting their financial needs in the face of COVID-19 lockdown.
The federal government conditional cash transfer program beneficiaries in Ayamelum are predominantly farmers, as the council area is known with rice and fish production. Beneficiaries are from Anako, Omo, Umumbo, Ibaku, Ifitogware, and Omasi communities. The household uplifting program, otherwise known as the conditional cash transfer, aimed at responding to deficiencies in capacity and lack of investment in human capital of poor and vulnerable, which took place in Ayamelum, has touched the lives of farmers positively. Some beneficiaries say the conditional cash transfer came at the right time to mitigate the economic impact of coronavirus lockdown and at a time of the beginning of farming season. The beneficiaries promised judicious use of the money received.
I'm very, very happy because the money is really helping me. At least since last year, my condition has changed.
I use the money for train my children. For buy market, I sell.
For the little we are having, we appreciate. And we are begging them to put more, to add more.
Some leaders from the communities also commended the government initiative to contain the COVID-19 pandemic.
The beneficiaries are very happy. They are using it to train their children. They are putting it into business.
I commend our President Buhari to help my people and the others for the cash transfer.
The desk officer conditional cash transfer program, Mr. Mike Okechi, said the program is hitch-free in Anambra State.
Last week, they were paid 10,000 naira stipend. They were very happy.
The conditional cash transfer by the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development was carried out simultaneously in Katsina, Nasarawa and Anambra State. In Ayamelun local government area of Anambra State, Nwabufo Unye, NTA News.
All right, let's take you back to the fire incident we reported earlier. Our correspondent, Mia Ogidi, is back from the scene. Let's see it.
Just like these other journalists that are standing outside, so we were as well, because we were not allowed access to the scene of the incident. But few minutes later, the Commissioner of Police and some of his colleagues in the Federal Capital Territory who entered inside and saw everything themselves told us what happened.
10:05 this morning, there was an alarm raised that there was a fire incident in the Accountant General's office. We quickly mobilized firefighting teams to come from different locations to Abuja so that we can contain the situation. Security was in place, and all relevant agencies were invited. We've been able to contain the situation for now. What remains is that we are commencing investigations to determine the source of the fire.
Because is it the entire building that was affected or section? And if it is, which part?
No, just a section. I cannot tell you which section. I'm not a staff of AGF, but part of the section was part of the building was affected, and the fire has been extinguished.
Okay. What?
Our correspondent there, Mia, reporting from the fire scene of the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation here in Abuja. That's it on Panorama. We do appreciate your company. I'm Ruth Aguwele. Always stay safe. Bye.